My robot started going crazy.
Hey, everybody. Welcome in. This is Anjanette from AJ's Personal Touch. And my co host tonight is Yarning4asmile. She had to go turn something off real quick. Hi.
Hello.
We'll just chat as people come in until they get here. So I basically just ask what's on your hook and what's in your cup. And I've got coffee tonight because I still need it.
You drink coffee this late at night and you're able to sleep and function the next day?
Yes, because since I've been sick, my schedule's off. So, and I had to be at the dentist this morning at 8:15. So my body is still it's exhausted. And plus I've been on steroids for the last 4 or 5 days and I'm down to the last couple days, so I'm crashing.
I
And
hate
so
steroids.
yeah. So I can drink this and I'll be in bed probably I'm usually up to like 1, and by the time I go to bed I will be out.
Yeah,
I don't have kids to take care of anymore. My daughter's grown out. She just got married, so.
Oh, well, congratulations. Yeah, if I can't drink coffee past like 4:30, or I'm just like
When she was
long.
little, I couldn't drink past 4:30 either. But I've had different surgeries and I'm supposed to have decaf. So this is still fully loaded because I wanted the flavor.
She said this isn't.
And plus I've got headaches and I need the fully loaded when I get a migraine. And my tooth, for those of you coming in, I had a dentist appointment today. I broke a tooth and I had to have a tooth pulled. So that's why I sound a little weird. I got a little buzz in my mouth. And anyway, it was giving me a migraine. So that helps better than taking my meds. And then if that doesn't help, then I go to my meds. So
I understand.
welcome in, Ambi. Crafts Reads. I know you're Ambi, so I always forget to say the whole thing. And welcome in, Samantha Stewart. How are you guys doing tonight?
Hello.
As you come in, let us know what's on your hook and what you're drinking. Which, as you know, mine just shocked the heck out of cans.
I'm drinking unsweetened. I'm a Milo's tea person. We're the Milo's Yellow Label tea family. And that's what I'm having. I love it. I meant to grab me some hot tea, but I didn't think about it because that's what I usually drink this time of night is some hot tea or water. But
right now, especially last couple months, and since it's been summer, if I don't have coffee in here, I always have this cup, so you never know. I either have hot tea or I have coffee. I love tea, so I don't think I've ever had Milo's though.
I love
I
the
don't think I've
Milo's
heard of
Yellow.
it.
Milo, it's a southern thing. So there's actually restaurants that sell like cheeseburgers and like these fries with like a sauce on them. They're like a seasoning, more of a sauce. But they make a really good barbecue sauce. And they have their own brand of tea. And they have like the red label, which is sweet, and the yellow label is like artificial sweetened. It's kind of like the Publix tea that Publix has.
Okay. Yeah, we don't have Publix up here either. But now that I think about it, I think our store does have a Milo's tea. And I was like, what is that? And it's in the big jugs, like the sweet tea. Okay. See, I'm thinking when I'm thinking tea, I'm thinking hot right now because but you just said it wasn't hot. So,
yeah, in the South, when somebody says tea, it's usually tea with ice.
right. And sweet tea, usually.
Sweet tea, yes.
Because if you don't tell them, because I know from the couple times I've been down south, if I don't tell them, please unsweetened, I get sweet tea.
You're going to get sweet tea. And it's usually really
my body's going to go into the shakes. So that's not a good thing. So Abby says she's doing good. Samantha says cottage core mosaic blanket and granny squares blanket and sedge stitch blanket. Wow. All 3 of them tonight. I always know you're going to have a mosaic. So, Queen Mama, Hillbilly House with Anita, welcome in. Mellow Yellow and cooking. I miss Mellow Yellow. It's hard to find up here.
I never have gotten into the Mellow Yellow.
And Samantha wants to know, when do you get a migraine? Well, today I was getting them because I had my tooth pulled, but they just pop up for me. Sometimes I can have a migraine for a month. So I used to get them every week until I started taking different meds that I had to take daily. Well, I've been able to get off of those because they're also not the best for you. And I finally got off of them. And since I've lost some weight and I was eating better and things, I now get them like only a couple months a year, but when I get them, they stay with me because I get them with the change of temperature. So as soon as winter goes and it gets warm out, I'm going to be down with a migraine, and it's like nothing that I do to prevent it ever prevents it. It's just going to happen. And then the same when fall goes, well, when summer goes to fall or winter, the same thing happens. It's like the change of seasoning. And my husband always tells me it's allergies, but I only have allergies in the summer. So
Barometric pressure also when the
yeah,
season.
I think it's the
That's when
bariatric
I get mine.
changing.
Yeah, variety. That's it. Yeah, mine
Yeah.
are hormonal and seasonal based because of that.
Yeah. And I know that too, because whenever we've gone vacationing in the mountains, when we get to a certain level, I'll have a really bad migraine in the car and I feel like I'm going to get car sick. And then as soon as we get a little bit higher, I'm usually fine. So there's somewhere in the middle there that my body just doesn't like. Kathy, I missed you. Sorry, Kathy. She says, hi, AJ and Kim. Coffee in my cup and putting finishing touches on whips.
Samantha, I am in Alabama, the South. Where
Ambi,
sweet
sweet tea is
tea,
the house wine of the South.
it is. Where sweet tea rings king in Alabama and Auburn football.
Yeah, we always know when we see our sweet Ambi that she's almost always drinking her sweet tea. From the, I don't know if you know that I do this sorry, my brain is not functioning correctly tonight. I have a group in Facebook where we go and we do virtual chat, and everybody's welcome to join and come in. And that's where I've met Kathy and Ambi. Well, and everybody who watches me who would know, Ambi and Kay's Crochet Haven and I, we do AKA crafting chat. So every other week. So, but yeah, that's where I've met them, and we've become really, really good friends. All of us who go in there, we've
I'm
become really
curious,
good
where is Ambi from where she's also a sweet tea drinker?
She's from Georgia.
Okay, so you're not that far. I'm about 45 minutes from Atlanta. So I don't know where you are in Georgia, but I'm right off I-20.
Samantha wants to know what we're working on. I'm working on a blanket I was supposed to have done for my daughter and her husband. Is so weird to say her husband. For Christmas, but I didn't have it done, and I promised, I was like, I'll have it done by the end of January. Well, then I got sick for the whole month. So I'm working on that. It's made out of a bunch of different squares.
And I am knitting on a shawl that you can't see because I knit with my hands basically in my lap. And I don't have to look at what I'm knitting, but it's going to be a big lace shawl that has a bunch of eyelets in it. And there's 700 and I think 60 or 50 yards of a light DK weight yarn that is full of color.
That is gorgeous.
It's in Miss Babs. So this is a memory of a friend I lost.
So, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I had started it right after she passed away because the yarn is from her. And I had to put it down because it was just kind of hard to work on it for a while. So I picked it back up and started on it.
I get that. I always love watching your channel because you get to have the yarns I dream of having. So, and my closest way of getting them was Knit Crate, and now since that's gone,
yeah, they had a lot of issues with shipping. I think that's sad.
Well, they didn't go under because of shipping issues. I don't think it was just COVID. COVID killed them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because of all of their yarn being overseas and everything. I was one of their supporters, and I stuck with them. And as soon as they get back to being good, it was fine. But it was always an issue of not being able to get their yarn because it was stuck in a container out in sea,
Right.
and they couldn't, unfortunately, they couldn't change that. So
I did a couple of their boxes when when they first started. I'm talking like first started the entire Knit Crate thing. But that was so many years ago.
yeah,
So
I didn't even know of them then. So
I can't even remember what I got from them in those boxes.
Ambi says she wants to mention that she has a craft challenge on her channel, a year of color craft challenge. Hashtag a year of color craft challenge. It's a different color or set of colors for each month.
Thank you, Kathy.
Lisa had said, I must not be far enough south because tea tastes like dirt to me. Ooh.
Some teas can, if it's not properly
Yes.
made. Usually it's when they like overboil the tea, and that's what can give it that nastiness.
Or
Milo's tea
depending
does.
just on what kind of tea it is.
Right. And
Or
or how long
still.
it's been sitting in made, because tea does have a shelf life.
Yeah. And you already said thank you to Kathy. She said that's so pretty. Maritza says, hola, hand pink waving ladies. Hello. Ambi says, except for January because I posted the video to you. And she says, I'm 30 minutes, 1 hour south of Atlanta. So, and I'll briefly mention too, I'm doing a crochet along right now. It's just a really quick one. If anybody's interested, I've got videos posted and stuff. It's just a heart, a quick Valentine crochet along. I'm trying to start doing some mini crochet alongs on my channel to help people who do the larger ones or who may not do them at all because they think they're too large. So I'm doing small ones that only take a couple weeks at a time.
One of the first things I ever crocheted was a heart. Like, it was not pretty. So not pretty. Now that I think about it. Yeah, I remember that. That was kind of scarring, actually.
My first, sorry, my
no,
first heart that I tried was pretty hideous too. I was like, I didn't realize how much went into a heart. You think, oh, it looks pretty, it looks simple.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot involved. Like, I tried to make this holiday garland with hearts.
Mm-hmm.
And that was 2004. That was January the 14th, 2013. So I've been a crocheter for about 17 days. 17 days touching my first hook. And I had to make all these little hearts. And they had, you start with a magic circle, because I learned that literally on day 4 or 5. And I didn't know how to pull it tightly very well. So like I have like this huge gaping hole in my magic circle. And I didn't understand that you had to like tie that. Like, it's pretty crazy. But then I tried to make this heart trivet. And that's when I learned a very valuable lesson about using cotton instead of acrylic yarns for trivets. So that was a very educational experience. And that was like that was even a day before I made the garland. So I was just in it to win it during the first few days.
Well, those were some valuable lessons.
Yes, yes.
Ambi says, Kim, the shawl is so very pretty.
Thank you. The shawl is Campside. It's by Alicia Plummer. And it's using some, I think it's Malintosh pecan. But it's a pretty good size shawl. I'm right around 6 feet tall, and it's longer than my wingspan. And it goes pretty far down. But it had a lot of eyelets. I actually led this, I think it's a free pattern. But it is a free pattern because I led a knit along with it one year.
I get the text from Madeline Tosh, and I always look at it going, oh, one of these days I wish. But they had when you first joined, they had a free pattern for knitters because all the patterns are for knitters. And I'm like, well, I'm planning on learning how to knit. And actually, this is the year that I told myself I would finally learn how to knit. So I saved it because it says it's an easy one. So I'm like, we'll see.
I have a lot of first-time shawl patterns that I can suggest that are easy. They're free. They take like 1 skein of worsted weight yarn. And a lot of them you can use any size yarn you want to, and just find a needle that you're comfortable with and make a shawl. I think those are great first time. There's a lot of people that kind of say that there's certain things that a first time knitter should do. Like they should use only worsted weight yarn, or they should use a size 8 needle. And I'm one of those, or they should make dishcloths. Like that's a really big thing. Like, oh, you should make dishcloths. But some people, that's boring. Why would you want to make something that you're going to get bored making and then like lose
Right.
the thrill of
Right.
making it? So I just say make what you want to make and then find something you're comfortable holding. There
Right.
you go.
Right. I agree with the find, what you're comfortable holding in that. Now, I do tell people if they're the type of person like I am who likes to try out new stitches, I make a dishcloth because it's just if you try it out for like 2 rows, it's like not really trying it out. So I
Right.
usually end up making a dishcloth out of it. So, yeah, I save all these dishcloth patterns and then I'm like, why? I'm never going to use it because I'm going to go through my book that has all the different stitches and I'm going to try something new and I'm just going to make my own. So, and that's the easiest thing that you can do is make your own, really.
Right.
So,
I agree.
okay. Let me get started here. The one question that I always ask everybody, or always try to remember to ask everybody when they come on and co-host with me is what made you start your channel?
Well, that's kind of a tricky question because the channel that I have now was not my original channel. So originally, my channel was created around 2014 when I first started to knit and crochet. And I started to knit and crochet because my mother-in-law was in a car wreck and developed early onset Alzheimer's. And I had read about the positives of crafts like knitting and crochet and how it slows down the brain's degrading process. And she's Austrian, so she grew up with it as a part of her everyday life. But I never seen her do it. So I started crocheting to try to get her back into it because I wanted to try. And then I kind of started my channel. But my channel went stagnant. And then I tried to revamp it in January of last year. And I put up all kind of content, and I had a bunch of content. I had like years and years of like kind of podcasts and product reviews on there. And I did my first live on StreamYard. And this is a cautionary tale, friends, because I didn't really know how to use StreamYard properly. And this person who I had actually been a follower or subscriber of my channel for many years wanted to come up with me. And I was like, okay. But I didn't know people could actually copy their avatar and their channel name real fast. And that person clicked the link and was in the basement. And I didn't see a video. I didn't know to look for a video. It just had like the avatar there. So I clicked on it to let them come up. And this spammer posted a photo for like 3 seconds. And then I saw what it was because it was a pornographic photo. I took it down. I ended the live stream, moved it to my private playlist, and I was contacting StreamYard and YouTube to report this person. And this person reported my channel in about 6 videos, and YouTube deleted my entire channel. And it was
Oh
gone
my
forever.
goodness. I had
So,
heard that your channel had been deleted, but I didn't know
yeah,
why.
that's why. So I had fought for about a month and a half to get it back, and there's nothing you can do. I mean, there's really not. So I started all over. So that's kind of why I have my channel now. It's because I started all over. So this is a whole new road with all new content and everything that I had before. Like I have a blog and I'm still going through and trying to remove the links to old videos because it just takes you to nothing because every bit of that content was deleted and gone. I couldn't re-download it or anything. So always back up your content in case that happens.
Wow.
And I'm not the only channel. There's another channel. She's from the UK. Similar situation happened with her. She has been able to back up some of her content that she had, but she lost a lot of her stuff too, and she had to completely start back over. It's just crazy.
I think I've only put maybe once that I put the link in the room for, if anybody wanted to come up with me. I don't think I'll be doing that.
Yeah, I think what I've learned is just to look down and make sure it's an actual video of the person and that you see the person and that you know
Right.
who
And
the
it's
person
not
is.
just a,
Right, an avatar photo. Because I didn't know that. And like when I was talking with StreamYard, because they were pretty fast with, chat. And they're like, let me pull this up. And like before they can even pull up the video, YouTube had already deleted the whole channel. Like it
wow.
was so fast of a process. And all you can do is appeal to bots and they don't ever send your review to actual person. So you just get there's two different letters they send you with basically a no, and that's all you can do.
That's the only thing I don't like about YouTube is that I've heard that before, that you really, if you need to talk to somebody, you really can't get a hold of an actual person.
So once you get to monetization level, some channels, and this is the problem that many people have with YouTube, is their transparency. Some channels are assigned a YouTube representative. And what that person is, if you have any kind of problems, you can message them. And they're kind of like your YouTube affiliate, and they will go to YouTube and bring up situations on your behalf. But it is very varied who gets that. There's some channels that have like millions of subscribers. They may not have one, but there might be a channel that has 400,000 subscribers. They may have an affiliate. Like, it's just very off the wall.
Wow.
You see more issues with that in the gaming side of YouTube. It's kind of crazy. And they're not very. Once you get monetized, it is supposed to be easier to be able to get to a person, though. But when you're not monetized, you're just kind of little fish in a big sea.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not really making them that much money. So they're not going to be out of their way to support you in any way. But there's really there's nothing else like YouTube out there. So
there's really not. I mean, there's people trying to be.
Yeah. So they kind of own the market, and they can kind of do what they want. Google's taking over everything. So hopefully, as more people speak out against it, because there's this whole a couple months ago thing with their transparency going around, especially in the gaming, and a lot of people were calling them out for it. And hopefully, as more of that stuff continues to happen, they will kind of get more open with their policies and kind of be more clear on how things are going to proceed.
Yeah, I've learned a little bit more here and there as like people that I know get monetized, and they, they talk about it or, tell me some things. But, like the whole thing that most of us who have smaller channels who are not monetized, we say when we have a giveaway, and like mine are, I don't even call them a giveaway. Mine are subscriber appreciation. So it's for only subscribers. Well, that's against the rules. When you're monetized, it's supposed to be for anybody.
Right.
So she's like, well, you need to be doing it for anybody. I'm like, well, I'm not monetized yet. So until they come and, they generally check the monetized channels. That's one of the good things about being a little peon, is they check them first for regulations. Right. So unless somebody turns you in, but I don't really think that's right either. That they tell you that it can't be only subscribers. I mean, first of all, almost everybody does it.
Uh-huh.
But like my husband says, if everybody does it, doesn't mean you should do it.
But, we're on their playground.
I had parents when I was younger. I don't need to have another one.
We are on their playground, so we have to play by their rules, which is kind of annoying. Ambi, right. It's fine. I've actually enjoyed this process so much better than my past channel. Like, it's crazy because it pushed me. Because back in the day when I started, that was my husband yelling at the dog. So sorry if y'all heard that. Back in the day, if you had a YouTube channel, there wasn't that much competition.
Right.
So you kind of were just kind of relaxed because I had so many watch hours. Like, I didn't have the people, but I had like way over the watch hours. And this time around, it's pushed me to really work on making better content and really learn about editing and lighting, or try to learn about lighting. I'm still working on that, and learning better editing, but learning better ways to formulate your videos to have a broader audience, I guess. So it's really pushed me to learn new things, and I've really enjoyed that, actually. Right. I like a lot.
Well, that's just like I told you, I'm trying to learn new things, but everybody knows my main reason for starting is just because, being home and sick and disabled and not being able to drive, you get lonely. So I was watching the Yarning community. Before the Yarning community, I used to watch everybody my daughter watched. basically to check up on what she was doing. Plus, I do like to game, not on YouTube as much or the gaming channels, but I game on my phone and I would watch what she was doing. And I did watch somebody who used to put out videos on one of the games I play on my phone. Used to watch her all the time. Well, not anymore because I don't have time. I don't have time to watch the crochet channels that I love to watch. And that upsets me because I'm like, I miss out everything I was doing before I started the channel, but yet I love doing the channel so much. I just have to make things balance out.
Yeah, it's hard. I don't get to watch as much as I want to. Like sometimes I'll go into like a live and I'll leave a thumbs up or I'll leave a comment and then I might just leave it playing, but I can't really just actively sit there. Or I'll try to catch a live. So on the weekends, I try to just add random channels to a playlist and I'll just try to have it playing so I can randomly walk by and comment.
Right.
Because I try to get a lot of crafts in on the weekend.
Right.
Because that's what's content. So.
I've been liking it since I can put it on my TV. The only thing I don't like is that you can't comment. Now, I just found out today how to look at comments while I'm on my TV. I didn't even know I could do that before. So I just found that by accident today. But yeah, especially if I'm going to clean, do dishes and do different things, I'll just turn it on the TV and I'll listen and I'll watch. I was doing that before my husband left and he kept stopping and looking and then stopping and looking. And he was like, "Who's that?" I recognize the voice. And it was Kaylin. He's never seen her before because he's always sitting in his chair, which is on the other side of my laptop. So whenever I'm talking to her or we're up doing AKA crafting chat, he can hear her. He knows her and Ambi and everybody who comes into the virtual chat by voice. But quite a few of them he's never seen. So he's like, "I know that voice." And I'm like, "Well, then you should know who it is." And he's like, "Why are you watching it up there?" I'm like, "Because I'm trying to get other things done on my laptop. I don't have time." Because then I'll want to see something, like somebody will show yarn or something. And here I'm trying to put up pictures of my stitch markers or something, and I'm like, I can't do that and watch what they're doing at the same time. So I'll put it up there so I can at least get a glimpse of what they're doing. And I can, listen as I'm trying to get done what I need to do.
So who taught you to crochet?
I learned how to crochet in 4-H.
I love 4-H.
My mom is not a crafty person.
My mom isn't either.
And
bless her soul.
I always did little tiny things. I would find trash and I would make it into pictures. I still remember Easter time always makes me remember my mom would throw out the egg cartons and I would take them out of the trash, wash them out real good. And I'd go up in my room and sit down at my desk and I'd start cutting them up. And I would always make these little, like from the lids, the smooth part, this like little car. And then I'd put the egg parts together and make little bunnies out of them. And I'd sit them in the car. So like they're driving off to go, do whatever all the Easter bunnies did, for Easter. And then I'd take little things and make it look like candy and grass, and stuff in there. And so I was always like that. So my mom was like, "Okay, when 4-H gets here, we're going to put you in there." But then I also found out later it was also to be a babysitter for me because my brother and I didn't get along. So
I was the only child.
3.5, 4 years older than me. And he just didn't want a baby sister. And he didn't know why I had to be here. And especially when I came on Christmas Eve, that did not make him happy either.
Yeah, I can see that would be like,
So him and I have just always fought from the day that I can remember. I mean, we'd have times where we get along okay, but even now, I've tried to get closer to him, especially after I got my diagnosis of being sick and with the chronic pancreatitis, having a second, really major diagnosis after my first one. I was just like, okay, I wrote him this long Christmas card about how we really, I'd like to get together more and do things with him and spend more time with him. He never said a word, not one word. And I was like, okay, I've tried a couple times and I'm like, it's on him now. So if he wants to, I see him at holidays. that's about it. So people will ask me, so how's your brother and where's he working? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. I can't remember the name of where he works because it's letters, and I know he's a truck driver, and I know that it's around where we used to live, the place that he works for, but I don't know which one it is. We have too many truck driving places around here. So I'm like, I don't know. I don't know which one to pick from. So
Amby says it was her Nana, dad's mom, that taught you to crochet. I
yeah.
learned to crochet from a Learn to Crochet book by boy with the metal hooks. And that's how I learned.
And I learned with Susan Bait hooks, and I think that's why I'm such a Susan Bates fan. But yeah, I was thinking of getting that book. I was supposed to teach my friend's granddaughter how to crochet, and then they moved down south. They moved to Alabama.
Huh.
So it's really kind of sad for my friend because her husband just passed away, and then within a couple weeks, her oldest daughter, with all the grandkids that used to come over and stay the weekends with her and stuff, moved. So she's like, it's like I lost everybody all at once.
Is she a crafter too? I know you told
No,
her daughter.
she's
Okay.
not. But her granddaughter wanted to learn every time she'd come over here. She's like, what are you doing? I want to learn that. Will you teach me that? And so I was like, yeah, I'll teach you. And I went and got hooks, and I went and, got everything. But she was one of 7 kids. So her mom could never figure out the time to bring her over. And since I couldn't drive, I couldn't go get her. And I was like, well, maybe we can do it over the computer. And then I learned she was left-handed. And I was like, okay, that's going to be a challenge for me. But then I said, well, maybe over the computer would be better because
Then you
she'd
can
be
flip it.
mirroring me.
Mm-hmm.
And so then it would look like I'm doing it left-handed anyway. So yeah, I told her, but she also is very bad with ADHD. So my friend was like, you're going to have a really hard time teaching her. So she said, and now over the computer, I don't know how you're going to. I'm like, she's going to hit an age, and I'm sure if she really wants to do it, she's going to be like, okay, I'm ready to do this. So I still have yarn and stuff here sitting for her for when her grandma goes down. She can take it down to her. And if she wants to get online and find a channel to learn, she can do that. And I told her I'll help her and do whatever, she wants me to do. So. But yeah, I learned in 4-H, and I did so much in 4-H. I did crocheting and cake decorating and cross stitch and needlepoint and ceramics, and you name it, I did it pretty much.
I loved 4-H. We also had home ec in high school, so we had baking
we
and
did too.
sewing. But we didn't learn crochet or anything in 4-H or even Girl Scouts. I never learned to do that in Girl Scouts. And I used to never. I mean, I was always a crafter, but never even wanted to knit or crochet. Like I was big in scrapbooking and paper crafts. I've always been a paper craft person. Big scrapbooker. Never.
I have scrapbooking stuff that I got here because I was going to put these amazing scrapbooks together for my daughter. Baby pictures. I have all the pictures. I never once made the scrapbook. I got this whole precious moments kit that came through the mail and everything. So I'm like, one of these days when I can't do what I want to do, I'm going to end up sitting down. We're supposed to clean up the back room and make a craft room for me. So when that happens, it's like I want to get the sewing. I have all these plans. I want to get the sewing machine out, and I want to do all the stuff I've been wanting to do and I haven't been able to do. So, and keep crocheting. But I always go where I have bouts where there's a time that I'll stop crocheting for a little while and then I'll pick it back up. But honestly, after I got my HIV diagnosis, for the exact same reason why you picked up crocheting to try and help your mother-in-law, I started doing it more to help myself because I had read that too, that crocheting, anything where you have to count and stuff, will keep your mind, more solid and going into the dementia state. And I was scared of death of getting dementia because I'd seen too many people get it and get the toxoplasmosis and everything that came with it. And I was really scared to death. And I was like, every night I'm sitting here, okay, I'm crocheting, and I love it, but at that point in time, I was doing it more because I was like, okay, I have to do this.
Right.
I got to keep my head in the game.
It's like I heard your cat.
Yeah, she's my co-host, huh, baby? You gonna say hi?
She's very vocal. Yeah, so that's my mom's mom actually passed away March 2020, right when COVID hit from dementia. She lost her battle, and she lived with my parents for about 4 years prior. But it was the Mayo Clinic who did that study, and
Mm-hmm.
they did knitting and crochet, and it was proven that it actually helps slow down that
Yeah,
process.
I
So,
remember that the article came from the Mayo Clinic.
which is
It was
pretty
in
awesome.
Time Magazine or something like that when I read it.
And then that's when I kind of started my worldwide knit in public event to help other locals and to get them into knitting and crochet.
And it's also great. The dental hygienist who took care of me today, when she heard that I crocheted, she was like, "Oh, I did when I was younger, but I just don't have time for it now. I go home and then I need to relax because I'm so stressed and this and that." I said, "Well, it helps with stress."
So I have a huge fear of the dentist because of the car wreck I had, and I shattered my jawbone. So I shattered both of the. You have two bones in your arm. I have one bone each, and plates and pins because I shattered a bone in each arm. So I had both of my arms in casts, and they had to put a new jaw in the plates. But they realized that they had set it wrong, so they had to go in and re-break it and reset it.
Ooh.
But because my arms were already both in cast, and because my jaw was so bad, they couldn't put me to sleep, so they had to do like locally um, anesthetic for this arm, and like I think it was just bad. So I have this huge fear of like dentists, and I had to have a root canal a couple of years ago, and I went and I can knit socks, anything that's just in the round knitting. I don't have to look at it when I knit. So when they were doing the root canal, I actually knit on a sock in the round on DPNs because it makes my blood pressure shoot through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
And I always have to get the gas, and they have to do the shots. And the dentist is like I was sweating. He was like, "You're gonna have to calm down." So I'm like knitting faster on my sock, and he was laughing at me. But I mean, it does. It helps you
Yeah.
stay calm.
I actually took mine in when I was telling Kim right before we had started, when because she was telling me about that when I told her I got my tooth pulled, that a couple of years ago I had like 2 root canals and then 3 and stuff, and I learned that HIV speeds up some of the things in your body, like it makes you older in certain areas like your teeth, and you get the issues that older people normally get sooner, and you get osteoporosis and things like that. And I would take mine, and I almost have a crochet project with me every time I go to the doctor's office.
Oh yeah,
It's
definitely.
surprising if I go there and I don't have one. While I was sick this last month is the longest I've gone without crocheting in like a year. So even when I'm sick, I try to pick it up if I can. But I've learned that I usually end up going and looking at what I did and having to take it all out. So I told myself, don't do it, because it's going to be a bigger mess later. But yeah, I didn't take it with me today. But I will sit there, and when I have the in between time, I'll sit and I'll crochet, and then they'll come in, and I'll put it down while they're working on me. But he went and he put the Novocaine in, and I was like, okay, he's putting it in on this side. I'm okay. And then he says, "I'm sorry," and I'm like, oh no, he's gonna do something I do not like when he says I'm sorry, and he had to put the needle in on the inside, and I was just like, no.
Yeah, yeah.
And I
So
was like,
like
I wish I had my crochet because I can crunch on, hold on to that tighter and feel the squishy. If I can feel the squishy, then I'm like, okay, I'm
my
able.
insurance will not cover the Novocaine, the not the Novocaine, the whatever the stuff is, the gas.
Uh-huh.
So it's like a $15 extra charge for me that I gladly pay prior to the needles, because like it literally, like I almost pass out when I see those things, and I can't help it. But it's from the years of needles from the wreck.
Well, I guess I can kind of understand. I get blood work. I deal with blood work and IVs on a every 3 to 4 month basis. So, Ambi says my dad is a truck driver, and she learned using a boy hook. Me and my sister are both very crafty. I say I'm craftual. We get it from our dad's side of the family. My dad is crafty too. He can do everything: woodworking and wood burning, drawing, and crochet. And he does
My
laughing gas. My brother was crafty when we were younger. He used to do woodworking and the wood burning and all of that.
Yeah, my needle thing also stems from I have really weird veins. Like they don't really support needles very well.
Right.
Even as a child, I had to get needles like it always or any kind of IV or anything. It took several times. When I had our
Yep.
boys, the first child I had, they tried 9 times to get an IV started, and they finally had to get the pediatric anesthesiologist to come in. It took him 2 times, and then the second child we had, I think it took like 11 or 12 IV tries, and then they had to get the neonatal anesthesiologist come in, and he took like 2 or 3 times. But my veins just they can't support them,
Yep.
so like that's a lot of pain and a trauma all your life. So there's been several times I've gotten like they had to take blood. And there was one time, it was the funniest thing. This little lady sitting next to me. Again, I'm like 6 feet tall, so I'm like not a small person. And this little lady sitting over there, and she's like talking to me, and like the needles coming at me, and they're drawing blood, and I could hear the want was. And then I was out, and I woke up, and that poor lady was like, oh, "Is she alive?" Like she was already. And I'm like, I sweat. When you pass out from that, like your body just breaks out like
Yep.
crazy sweat, like you just get drenched.
Yep.
And I'm like sweat's pouring off of me. And she's like, "Does she have what's wrong with her?" And I'm like, "It's okay. It's okay. It's normal. It's completely normal."
I'm used to it. I can relate, except for I don't think a needle has made me pass out, but I've always had issues. And we found now that I have extremely tiny, tiny veins, and they almost always have to use the
The butterfly.
pediatric, needles and stuff on me too. And they apologized to me when, oh, well, this procedure needs a big needle. I've started going to a new place I get pain blocks every couple months for my chronic pancreatitis. And at the other place, they use the pediatric needles. And she's like, we need to use the big. I'm like, no, you don't. I know you can use a pediatric needle. No, I need to. I said, no, you don't.
And they have
And
to.
I sat and argued until the anesthesiologist came in, and he's like, you can use a pediatric needle. We don't have
Yeah.
to have the large one.
And
I just have to deal with more
crazy.
pain because they have to put the medicine in slower so it burns longer.
Right, and usually they have to get it like in random places. Like usually it's this really tender part of your back of your arm. I've had to have an IV like right here in this, or they've gotten blood from this blood vein right here.
They go here. I've had an IV right here up in my knuckle because
I've had IVs
everything
in my
else
foot.
blew.
I've had in my
Here.
jugular
Now,
vein.
they tried in my foot, and I literally screamed. And I told her,
Oh yeah,
you touch me there again, and I'll just kick you in the face because I can't help it. My foot's going to automatically kick.
That's when I had both of these arm broke, and they had to go in and do the re-break my jaw. They had to stick it because they couldn't fit it anywhere else because they was afraid I would jerk it. So they had to put it in my foot, and it was the craziest. Like that's horrible.
My daughter is scared to death of dentists, and she would probably beat me if she knew that I was saying this. But when she was little and she had to go in to have cavities put in for the first time, when they're that young, they use gas on them. Well, we had to go to a dentist that was not ours because he didn't use gas. And so he sent us to a pediatric dentist. And we went there, and for whatever reason, they didn't tell us. And I didn't know this. It was my first experience with, the gas and that. But because it relaxes your body, it can make you need to go to the bathroom. Well, they didn't tell us. And they're like, oh, no, we tell everybody so that they will go up and go to the bathroom before they have the procedure. Well, they didn't tell us. And poor my daughter, they gave her the gas. And when she woke up, she just literally peed all over herself. And we had went, during a school break, and then I had to take her home, and she had to change and everything before I could take her back to school. And she was just so embarrassed. And after that, she was like, I'm not going back to the dentist. And it was like, yes, you are. And she went until she was 18 because she had to, because my husband has never gone to the dentist a day that I've known him because he had something happen to him when he was young too. I don't know what, he won't tell me. So Emily says, Dad doesn't go. So I don't need to go. And he looked at her. He said, yes, honey, you've got to go every 6 months, just like your mom does until you're 8.
Right.
So she doesn't go now. She's like, not unless her tooth hurts. She's like, I'm not going. You can't make me. But I felt so bad for her. And I'm like, if you guys would have just told us, we would have taken care of the situation. There was no
Right.
reason that had to happen.
That's
So
crazy.
yeah, I didn't blame her. And then she would only go to our regular dentist. She said, I'm not going to anybody else. And then he retired. So but I told her, I said, you'll
That's
really
usually
like
the way it works.
to now. Yeah. Well, that wasn't until she was older. And the guy I go to now, he's really fun and he's really nice. So I'm like, you'll like him. But he does warn you. Anytime he says sorry, it's like, okay, something's happening and I'm not going to like it.
He does warn you.
You're making mama hot. You don't
My
care.
cat's over there asleep, so you probably hear snoring. Dexter's in here. This is his domain. I'm in our bedroom, and he stays in our bedroom. He thinks he's too cool to be with the other cats in the house, so.
The other black and white one that we have is in my room on the bed. And that's a little bit. And then charcoal is in on my husband's bed, I think. And he's charcoal gray with long hair. Unfortunately, we lost my husband's baby, who was the closest cat to a human we've ever had.
Yeah.
He was I love you, honey, and I'm not saying anything bad, but he was the best cat that we've ever had. The best in every way. I mean, you would have
That's how
thought
Dexter is. That's why we allow him to be bad and just reign in his domain.
I mean, I was talking about it with somebody the other day. But, I mean, he was the type when he got sick and we almost lost him. We had IVs put in him and, got the bill and everything and saved him. But unfortunately, right before Christmas, this has been a hard Christmas, especially for my husband. I had a doctor's appointment. We had been gone all day. He actually took me places to get some things to the different craft stores and everything. And we came home and Halford was fine. He was jumping over. He was playing with Kahlua, which is my co-host here. And they were slapping each other and playing. And he got up and my charcoal was in my husband's lap and he went over and he nudged him and, and he patted him and he gave, my husband a kiss and that. And then I was over here half asleep and Bob's like, what happened to Halford? I can't find him. And he couldn't find him. And then he went looking for him and he's like, I can't find him. And he woke me up. He's like, I can't find him. Have you seen him? And then I just heard this gut wrenching cry when he found him. And it was just, yeah, it's been bad. He hasn't quite recovered from it yet. I think it's the first time he's had a cat that he was really close to.
All right.
That he had to put down. I mean, we've put down at least 3 or 4 cats since him and I have been together, but it's the first time that he's been the one who's majorly attached to it. So it's been rough. Oh, baby. It's been rough for her too.
Yeah, they sense it. They get lonely.
And we had just taken in the other 2 because we call them our fosters still that we brought in from outside. Somebody across the street had moved and left them.
Oh.
Well, thank you, Ambi. She says she's still sorry for our loss. It feels like we've lost everybody. Ambi's the only one talking. Everybody else must be lurking.
Lurking and working.
Yeah. Well, I know Kathy's finishing up a pocket shawl, so she's probably sewing in her ends and all of that stuff. It's hard to type when you're doing all that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're finding that the black and white cats are very vocal because a little bit, anytime Bob comes home, she's got to follow him around the house and tell him about her day. Just chatty. And she used to be that way. Now she just says yes and no and lets me know when she wants to be up here in my lap.
Oh. Yeah, I heard her a while ago meowing in the background. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, that's when she wanted up here. It was her, is it okay if I jump up there with you? But she does. It's funny. People laugh because she doesn't say yes and no. I'm like, I'm telling you, she says yes and no. And then I'll just be sitting here and you can ask Ambi and Kathy if she pops back up. There are nights when I'm chatting with them on a live chat, and Bob will say something, and he'll ask me a question, and I'll say yes, and then all of a sudden she'll be next to me, and she'll go, "No." Always the
Kathy is
opposite of
putting
what Mom
tassels.
says, huh? Oh, that's right. I forgot you're putting tassels on your shawl.
That's such a tedious job.
Yeah, it's one I don't do. I don't like tassels.
I've used them a couple of times. Like I did this big blanket out of cotton yarn, and I used 108 different colors.
Wow.
It was crazy, and like each color's just like a couple of rows, and then you leave the ends, and then you just make more tassels to kind of hide the ends and knot them off. Which I'm like, that's a genius use of tassels, because I was not going to weave in 108 different color
Right.
strands of
Right.
yarn. Like that's not happening. So I was grateful for that. But yes, it's a lot of tassels.
I don't normally do tassels and I don't normally do fringe, but I did a baby blanket for my daughter, and it's called a reversible blanket. Well, now I'm finding out that it was more mosaic than, reverse. Anyway, it was reversible, and it was all done in single crochets, and it was tedious, and I said I'd never ever do it again. But it came out beautiful. It was done in baby blue, baby pink, baby green, and baby yellow, I think, and there may have been purple. But it looked like stripes on the one side, and then the other side they'd go up. So it'd be stripes, and they'd go up, and it'd be double crochets. So it'd be like these blocks of lines that would go up every certain number. Anyway, that had fringe on it because it was made to have the yarn stay out on the side, and just like there was no way I was going to sit there and weave all those ends in. I'm
Mm-mm.
like, it took me long enough to make the blanket. I'm not about to sit and weave in all those ends.
And
Not happening.
I love scrappy projects. Now don't get me wrong, like I love scrappy projects. Like I love my Sophie's Universe, but that has I try to like take a couple of nights and like just work on ends, because that's a lot of ends too. None of these rows are where you use the yarn more than one time, except for like one or two.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a job. Like it's a job.
I've been
I'll
hearing
be
a lot of people are working on that this year.
Yeah, well, I started mine the year it came out in 2015, so it's been a long-standing whip, mainly because of all the ends. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, I remember looking at that when it came out, and I was like, I want to do that. I really want to do that someday. And then I look at it, and I'm like, nah. I
I
have a
love
friend
it.
who had just learned how to crochet like month 2 months before that, I think. She did it in a crochet along, and she got it done in literally 2 months. I was like, and she was a pharmacist. I was like, how did you do that?
Like we started it when the crochet along started in 2015, and I'd only been crocheting what, a year and a half maybe at that point. But I just got into knitting also, and knitting is kind of my favorite. Like I like to crochet, but knitting is what has my heart. So
I get that. I've heard a lot of people say that, but then I've also had other people like who knit, heard that they
and they've
knit and
gone
they go
more crocheting.
crocheting, and they like crochet more. And I heard of a couple people who, crocheted, went to knit, but then went back to crochet because they just really didn't like the knit. I had somebody tell me who was a crocheter, then went to knitting. She's like, you'll never, ever go back to crochet. And I'm like, don't tell me that, because crochet is my
Oh, you
first
will.
love. I will
I
always go back to it. Even if I fall
Right.
in love with knitting, I will always go back to it.
So the main things I crochet is amagori. Like I love them, but also
I
enjoy
love how
knitting
you
them.
say amagori. It took
I
me a while to know what you were talking about when you
I
said it,
say it weird because I have my southern. I forgot. I don't know how other people say it.
but it's amigurumi, and I'm like,
Amigurumi.
okay,
What do I call amagori? I don't know.
because I was trying to figure out, I'm like, how did she get that? Because the whole roomy has been left off. I can see the southern accent in the beginning of it, but
So
the
what?
end of it, I'm like, she
This is what
shortened it,
happens.
and there you go.
That's my brain. So my brain, I'm really bad about. I'll see a word and I see like the first two letters, and then I
I remember you saying
autofill.
that.
And I can't, like, I've always done that. Like when I had to do public speaking things, it was really hard for me because I would just like, I don't know, it's bad. So yes, I'm saying that completely wrong. Whatever.
I watched your I I need to watch Crystal's video on doing the books. I love Crystal. I just got a Valentine card from her and I'm like, "Ooh, I need to get some Valentine cards." Um she's so sweet, and her and I will chat back and forth, you know, because we have so many things in common. But she's one that I've lost touch with while I had gotten so sick. And I had every plan of making some little things to send to her for Halloween. And then I had some major pain issues then. So I ended up not being able to help her out. So I wanted to watch that because I love all the books. And when she did the one crochet along where everybody got the same book, I was like, oh, I really want to get that book and I need to get that one. But anyway, I just got Edward's Menagerie for my daughter for Christmas. And I'm so excited. I can't wait to pick my first animal out of there and make it. Actually, I
Yeah,
know what it's going to be, but
those are
well,
great books. I loved so Carrie Lord is the designer of that, and she's also the
right.
top designs. And that's what I actually have a video that I was working on. But my husband surprised me with a bunch of the kits like he ordered for me
Oh,
from the
wow.
UK. So I have the snake plant, the um, oh my goodness, string of pearls. And then got me this box, which is like their seedling box.
Uh-huh.
How do you open this thing?
I
And I
was
want
looking at those the other day and I was like, oh, I would love to be able to.
and so you get the yarn, and then you get the little stuff to make them, but you get to make these things.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that one, and the bud. Love that one. Like the little onion, and that one, and that one. And I want to make those because I love making them. But that's so funny. Like, I never even dawned on me that I was saying that wrong. Which, again, like, you know, I always tell people I am not a crochet. I'm good at crochet. I can crochet stuffies. I can read a pattern. I can read charts. Charts are not a problem. But the terminology, like, we were talking about Sophie's the other day on Carrie the Yarny Elephant. And she was talking about like a certain stitch that you have to do in the pattern. I think it's like row 25. There's a crab stitch, and they're like talking about the stitch, and I'm like, "What are y'all talking about?" And she's like, "Oh, the stitch you did there." Found out it was optional, and I didn't do it. But like, I know double crochet and no single crochet, but beyond like the
Uh-huh.
special stitches.
Well, and it's so funny about how they have different names. How the same stitch can have 2 or 3 different names,
Yeah, I'm like,
you know?
now knitting, however, I can tell somebody, "Oh, that's so and so. That's this right here."
Mhm.
Crochet? Nope, not it.
Um, I'm missing stuff for Ambi. She says, earlier my dad said he was turning on Black Dog Road, and Black Dog was my dad's last dog he had years ago.
Aw.
Okay. She said, groovy, about the tassels. She said, they were talking about that on Affordably Geeky this morning. We're so far behind with you, Ambi. I'm not sure what you're talking
I
about.
think she's talking about Sophie's Universe.
Okay. Okay. I subscribed to you, Kim, a few minutes ago. And
Thank
then she
you.
said cute to the kit. Yeah, actually Kathy and I were going through once I realized I did a live the other night because I didn't want to go through my book without showing it, and I was feeling better from being sick, and I'm like, I'm gonna go on and do a live. I never do one by myself. And I went on to show it, and I had so much fun doing that live and showing the book, and everybody just loved it. And I was like, I want some of the yarn, and I want to find, something. But it's like every place that I looked in the US that carries her products, it's almost always just her pom-poms. And I'm like, I want
Yeah, so I
her
mean,
yarn.
I like to. I use mostly acrylic yarn for theirs. Like the some people say it patons, some people call it patons,
I call it
croy.
patents.
I call it patons.
Hi,
Patons.
Froggy.
We'll go with patons. Patons, like their wool. You know, when it's on sale at Michael's, that's really good
Mhm.
because it's a thinner DK light wool than a worsted, really,
Uh-huh.
and it works about the same. I like that. But a lot of my stuffies, I use just acrylic. Like, I love
Right.
this yarn.
I do. I use acrylic. I use a lot of cotton. I like crocheting with cotton, except for it depends on what kind it is because it can really hurt your hands when you're doing. amigurumi. But I just thought it would be cool to get just enough to do one of
Right.
the animals in her book and have, one actually look like one of the animals in her book.
So right there is one of her dolls. It's kind of hard to see, but
Hmm.
it's just out of acrylic yarn.
But yeah, I definitely want to get some more. I almost got the monster one that you have. But I'm
That
like,
is like the best book ever because I love that you can flip the pages and
yeah,
create like
and then I
different
missed it
monsters.
because they had it at a book outlet, and I was gonna get it, and when I went back there, it was gone. So I was like, okay. So
I want.
unfortunately, I have to get most of my stuff when if I can find it discounted and stuff. So
There is
Froggy
several.
says she's working and lurking.
Yeah, there's several other books that I want. I haven't even looked who's this month's. Okay, say the A word again.
Amigurumi,
Amigurumi. What am I calling it?
Amigori.
I was calling it Amigurumi. Okay, so I don't even know who the amigurumi designer is this month. I need to look because I want to. Now that we're actually in February, I can start on something.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask you. Where do you find out about the Amigurumi Wars?
H dot Y. No, wait. Y dot O dot H crochet. Yes, YOH. But there's two YOHs. So, and the YOH that's leading this is actually the first YOH. I don't know, like, how no one else has, like, brought that up. So, because I'm like, so this lady basically copied her channel name. Nice. Yeah.
Alrighty.
Yeah, there we go. It has the dots. If you type in just YOH, it pulls up the other person.
Okay.
It's not the person.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'll have to look at that. I don't know if I'll be able to do it this year, but maybe next year because it sounds like it's a yearly thing.
So last year I just did like random months. So I did October and I did December just to kind of participate and be part of the fun. But this year I am trying to make something every month. And then in between that, I'm going to be making my Toft kits, my little seedlings.
Cool. This year, my goals are to try and finish as many whips as I can. And I have so many whips. I mean, I have a baby blanket for my best friend's daughter, and her daughter is going to be 4 this year, I think. So I'm like, I really need to get that blanket done because family had babies. And so family came first in front of friends, and, all that stuff happens. And I'm like, okay, I need to go back and do those. And my niece and nephew both had babies again this year. And I was like, you know what? Family's just going to have to wait this time. My
Right.
friends, I got to get these done. They just got to
And
get done.
Froggy Went a Knitting, she says, and you can. So each month, the different channel is hosting it, and there's actually I post in my community tab that has them all linked, but
Okay,
that
I'll have to
post
go look
from
for that.
YOH also has it. And then each month there's a drawing a winner from each channel, and then there's like the end of the year grand prize finale winner who has the most points, or is it like a wheel? I don't really know, but there's end of the year prize. I actually won a pattern from Froggy Went Knitting last month. That's what I made my happy pill from.
Awesome. I put my Edwards Menagerie on my list. Every year for Christmas, I give my daughter a list because she likes that, so she can just know what I want and go and buy stuff. So, and I put that most important on that one. So the next time she gets the list for Mother's Day, or if it won't be until my birthday and Christmas again next year, the second one's going to be highest priority. So I
How
end up
many
getting
whips do you have? I can about guarantee I probably have more than you
I
do.
have at least 15 to 20.
Okay, so yeah, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I have 13.
Yeah, I'm not sure for sure. I know in the
14.
container
I
in
know I
the
have
back
15.
room, I have an Afghan from my mom that I started and a baby Afghan for my goddaughter's oldest. I have a baby Afghan I didn't even start, so it's not really a whip yet. It's a whip that should be for her second baby. And then I have the blanket that I started for her third baby because she wanted a cover for her for the carrier. and I didn't have time to do it, so I started Bag of Days, her crochet along when she was doing the crochet along with all the different Sesame Street characters, except for I'm using regular yarn and just one shade of yarn. And I thought, oh, I'll get that done. And then I got sick and I just didn't pick it back up again. And I figured it was after Christmas and I hadn't even heard from her. So I was like, oh, well, she can't call. She can't say hi. She can't bring the baby over. So why should I make that my priority? And I put it away. And I have like literally 3 squares to finish on that. So right there, that's 1, 2, 3. The other baby blanket is 4. And then I have a sweater that I started for my husband. But then again, it's not together anymore because he got bigger. So I had to take it out to restart it. So I haven't restarted it yet. And I have a top for myself because I didn't have enough yarn. I was testing it. The lady's pattern ended up being way too big. And I bought the yarn to be able to finish it. Well, now I'm not even going to need probably all of what I had, but I'm also having skin removal surgery this year. So I'm going to end up being a couple sizes smaller when I'm done with that. So I'm not making anything that has to do with summertime tops until after I have
Right.
surgery. I am going to be making a cardigan though for myself. So, and then I have my daughter's blanket for Christmas and I have some other couple little things. So I guess I really don't have as many. It's just that I have some things that I've promised that I would do that I haven't done. So I'm including those in my whips.
Right.
Like I have to make cat beds because I got the yarn for it. And my husband's like, you've been saying for 2 years you're going to make those. So those are a must. And I need to make 4 Christmas stockings because we need new stockings. And I've been saying for the last 2 years I was going to get stockings done.
I
So
think I'm going to
he'll
do cat
remind me. He's
beds.
like, I thought you were going to. And I'm like, okay, so this is my year to get all of that done.
I think I'm doing cat beds for a community drive this year for my Worldwide Knit in Public event. It's Worldwide Knit and Crochet in Public. I include both.
I
But I
do
always try to do a drive for them.
my Fridays. See, I'm like you, I don't really have a big schedule for my channel, but I do have certain things. And my lives, like I told you, I don't have those scheduled. It's just whenever I find
Yeah.
somebody.
There's no
And
scheduling
then,
my lives in my house at all.
and then
I can throw
we
that out the
just do
window.
it. And then but Fridays is my fundraising day and it's a pet fundraising. And I'm actually doing a competition right now because we're renaming it. Because last year it was Work a Whip Day for me. But I've been working with, it's called Meow Mission here. And a lot of states have organizations like this. It's where they come and they get the feral cats and you
We have
can
it.
host a
Ours is just
community, which
ours
we
is
do.
just spay and neuter Alabama. Like they went all out with the name on it.
Yeah, ours is Meow Mission. So they came and they took care of the 2 that I said are like our fosters because they ended up after they got neutered and we thought they were going to be outside all the time. When winter came, they just walked in the door. They're like, we're here. We were like, okay, well, we weren't going to make them go back outside because it was cold.
Right.
So anyway, they're in here and they've got their ears tipped and we're like, great, when we take them to the vet, we're going to have to tell them, yeah, they're ours now. Cause they're like, you're not supposed to rehome them. I'm like, well, sorry, but I'm trying to help raise money because we couldn't afford anything and we couldn't even, pay them the little bit that
Right.
it costs to do it. So I'm just making stuff and they've lost their crocheter, so they're happy. So for every event that they have, they like to have little toys and stuff. So I'm making toys and I trying to get my subscribers, I'm like, even if you don't have time to make it, if you want to send me scraps, because I can literally make them out of scraps, and I'm running out of my cotton scraps. So I'm like, if you want to send me cotton scraps, because I try to make them out of cotton because with the cat's claws and stuff,
Right.
Acrylic's okay. It's just cotton holds up longer.
Yeah, we have a local group. There's 4 shelters in our area, and only one of them is a no-kill.
Mm-hmm.
So they have different little groups of people that come in, and they'll get the animals and like basically foster them. And there's 3 of the cat groups because there's such overpopulation of cats in our area. So I actually met those ladies last year, and I told them I was going to run a drive for cat beds that they can easily wash this year for my Worldwide Knit and Crochet in Public. Froggy says, I have more whips than both of you put together.
Amby
And I
says
can hear her voice as she's saying that and typing it in her mind. And
Amby
I can
says
see her little smirk when she does it.
Amby says one of my goals this year is to finish my whips. I don't have as many as y'all. I only have 4 or 5. Unfortunately, one of hers is a gorgeous blanket that she was working on, and the yarn has been discontinued and she can't get any more. And she hasn't been able to find it.
I used to be a monogamous crafter, but
I can't do that anymore because I'll get bored and I have to go on to something else.
that's exactly why I'm no longer a monogamous crafter. I'm like, I can't do this. Because also, some projects, like I have that one shawl that I'm working on. That's actually, once I get done with this mindless shawl, I'm picking it up, but it's an older whip, but it's a lace shawl from Aromi Hill Designs, who is like this knitter who is like the queen of lace shawls.
Mm-hmm.
And it's close to almost 900 yards of lace. It's a
Wow.
lot of lace and fingering weight yarn. And yeah. I love doing, every year, she has these Easter egg hunts on Ravelry. And she will go in and she'll put little Easter eggs on some of the patterns. It's a 3-day weekend event, or 4 days. It starts on Friday,
Uh-huh.
Saturday, and Sunday, 3 day. And you have to go through and you find little Easter eggs. You can type in the code and it can get you like free patterns or like a free ebook. And then she always releases a spring mystery knit along. So it's a mystery knit along from a couple of years ago. But she's an amazing designer. I love her stuff. I always get it and I'm like all gung ho about starting them. And then I start it and then I just get like, it's so involved that I just kind of get into something else. But then I always go back and finish them. But it's just
Right,
getting
right.
myself to finish them. Yes, I have startitis
Yeah.
too.
I say Froggy says I got startitis a few years ago. I am slowly working through them.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of my problems is like the Afghan I started my mom and the baby blanket for my goddaughter for her first daughter. I had been in the hospital one year for over 100 days. I had to go in, then I'd come home and something else would happen and I'd have to go back. I had my second gastric bypass. It was a revision. And because they had waited because it took them 9 years to find out that the first one wasn't correct, and they kept thinking that I ate myself bigger. And I'm like, no, I'm doing everything that I was told. And I said, yeah, then I got depressed and I, did eat some things I wasn't supposed to, but I did not gain it all back on my own. And as soon as I met this one doctor and I told him what was going on, he's like, I know exactly what it is. He did a simple x-ray test, an upper GI, and he's like, yep, there's a problem. Your stomach didn't go as small like it was supposed to. It's got this big hole, and because everything is moved around, you don't have the little sphincter muscle anymore, and so it was just letting the food just drop through it.
Hmm.
And so I was never feeling like I was full, and everything that I would drink would go through it. Well, now everything makes me full, but I had issues, and he said the issues were because it took so long for it to be fixed. I had a leak and I had all these different things. Well, like I said, I ended up being in the hospital for 100 days, I think exactly, or 101. And I think I went in a total of 5 or 6 different times. And that hospital is 3 hours away from here. So every time I was in there, I was basically by myself. My husband and daughter would try and come down to see me on the weekends, but that wasn't always, guaranteed.
All right.
So I had my crochet there with me. And they would always try to place my IV so that I could actually crochet, because that's one of the worst things in the world is when you keep making this stupid IV machine go off every time you're trying to make a stitch. But the thing that happened was I had 3 different projects I started, and they were all Afghans. 2 of them were baby Afghans, and then my mom's. And they're actually really simple. And when I look at them, when I did my friends, like it took me 2 years to pick it up and do it. And his son was 4 at the time. I was like, I need to get this done. And I was scared to pick them up because I thought they were so hard, because my mind was so drugged and medicated that when I
All right.
tried to do them, I had to put them down because I'm like, that's just too hard. I can't think. I can't figure that out. And as soon as I picked it up, I had it done like literally 2 days later. It was like, that was simple, but I'm still having a hard time getting my mind to go back to the other ones.
I
I'll
love
do
that.
fine with the baby blanket because that one is actually, I think I have like maybe 4 rows and it'll be done. But my mom's, I only have like literally 3 rows in it. I'm like, oh my goodness.
And I think we tend to overthink things, like especially easy patterns. Like this pattern that I'm working on, it's a very simple repeat. 4 rows. 4 rows, not three, 4 rows of repeat. Yet, the first time I tried to do this thing, I would mess up like constantly. And I couldn't figure out why. And I'm like, okay, so I put it in timeout. And then when I started back up on it like Saturday, I was like looking at it. I'm like, I had to rip the whole thing out. And I was like at
Yep,
this level already.
I
And I'm
get
like, okay,
that.
this is ridiculous. This is 4 rows. I can do like a lace shawl while watching TV and subtitles. I like to watch foreign films and subtitles when I knit lace. But 4 rows was killing me. And then it's like I set it down, took it out, started all over, and I don't even have the pattern. I haven't had the pattern past the second repeat.
Wow.
It's
You can
it's just
ask,
sometimes our brain just can't do it.
yep. You can ask Ambi and Kathy. I was doing and I did a series on it. I did a sample crochet, and I did the series so that I could tell people the difference between doing a tester crochet and a sample one. I did a sample crochet for Mace of Skeins, and it was a lace weight shawl, but it looked almost exactly like what you're making right now, and it was done all in half double crochets, simple half double crochets up, and then 2 double crochets, a chain, 2 double crochets, then half double crochets down. I mean, simple. It was a 2 row repeat though, because it was like on one end you had 2 stitches in the first stitch, and then on the other end you didn't, but then when you started up on the next one up, you had 2 stitches, and then you didn't on the next one. So made it it made it do that, where
Right. The
it's not
little
a triangle, but it's like the tier, it goes
kind of like
around.
a semicircle, kind of our
Yeah,
a
so that
moon,
it circles
half crescent.
around, and so
Yeah.
you don't have to flip it over. It was gorgeous. It ended up being gorgeous. Well, it was my first time ever really being able to work with amazing, lace weight yarn. Now, I have dyed yarn and I've worked with yarn that weight before because I've dyed it myself. But I mean, this was, I can't even remember if it was just a regular superwash or what. But I always do the magic knots, and I put magic knots in it. Well, I didn't realize with that kind of yarn the magic knots were going to come out. So I was like 3/4 of the way, and I had to go all the way back to only having 4 rows, 2 weeks until it was done, supposed to be done. And she gave me 2 months because she was like, okay, she asked how long. And I'm like, I've never really made one, with lace weight for, at least 4 weeks. I figured it would take. She gave everybody 2 months on all their projects, knowing that it should only take everybody maybe a month. And here I was literally at the end. I'm like, oh my goodness. And then I was having the problem too. It was so simple. And I was putting stitch markers in like every 50 to try and help count it. And yet I would always get the count wrong, and I'd end up having to count the whole row anyway. And I'd
Those
have
are
the
the
stitch
worst
markers
days.
out of place. And I was just like, oh my goodness. But I still had so much fun with it. And I'm like, I can't wait for the next one. And she was like, oh my goodness, it came out so amazing. So I can't wait. I can't wait to do another one for her. So I told my husband, I said, there are exceptions to what I'm doing this year, because he holds me to what I say I'm going to do. I'm like, if Macy has another sample that she will let me do, because she likes to pick, different people. So I may not even get picked. I'm like, I will do it,
Yeah,
because
I'm kind of wanting to get back into test knitting and crochet. Like I really enjoyed that. I have something actually on the way to me right now that I have to work up for a company, which is going to be pretty fun and interesting.
cool.
So I'm kind of excited about that. But
I have a couple groups that I belong to. If you want just regular, designers to work for too. But what I
yeah,
loved about doing this sample one, and especially how Macy does it, is you get a gift card so you can buy her yarn. So that's your payment. So I'm
Yeah.
like, yay, I get to have some really amazing yarn to work with.
I've worked with, there's a dyer known Knits for Comfort. I made a sample piece for her booth. I've done test knits for a couple of bigger names, which was a lot of fun. And I used to work for Eat Sleep Knit out of Georgia. I was one of their testers, pattern testers for a while. That was a lot of fun, but they quit that program. And then I did some things with Barocco, but it's fun. I like doing it. I like the challenge of finding the mistakes. It's like a
How do you
mystery.
get into doing tester knits for companies?
Um, I've been contacted by
Okay.
them, several of them. The Knits for Comfort, that was just a call on Instagram. I've test knit for Hohe Locatelli, who's a pretty big knit
Yeah,
book.
I've heard.
I've test knit for her before. That was just an open call, and they have to provide samples of your work. And I have like a whole, I have a tab on my Ravelry. All my projects are on
Uh-huh.
Ravelry, but there's a whole tab of tests that I've done. So it's kind of like a
Yeah.
resume for
Macy
me.
had to look. I had to tell her where all my work was, or she could go look at it too.
And that helps. But I've I get contacted sometimes. Like I've been offered a salary position
Wow.
and I turned it down, which I kind of regret. But I didn't really know. It's because it's like a job. I mean, like you've got to
Right.
be able to put that time in, and you've got to meet those time frames. And with homeschool and everything, I didn't really know how that was going to work for me.
Yeah, I get it. I
So
crochet for hire, so I understand, because when you have that, you have to get that done, and it has
right,
to be done.
and I didn't want to. I don't like letting people down.
Right. Right.
And I'm a perfectionist. Like I'm gonna put, if I have to rip something out completely and start all over, I'm gonna do it because I don't like mistakes or
Right.
dropping down to fix it. But
We're a lot alike in a lot of ways.
I can't leave things. So that was interesting. But this
The
thing that's
only
coming,
time I can leave something is if I'm making it for me or a family member, and I know they don't care. But if it's going to anybody else, it's got to be perfect,
yeah. And
completely perfect.
and I think it's just, I was contacted because I've had the same Yarning4asmile name since 2013. Like I've been on Ravelry since 2013. I've had
Hmm.
my Instagram, my YouTube, my Pinterest, all of that has been the same name. Twitter, Yarning4asmile since 2013.
Right.
So
I
it's
can
kind of
see
like
that.
when you build, you kind of, I mean, it's kind of like building a brand. I mean, it really is.
Right.
And
Right.
putting all your pictures out there, and then
Yeah, I was on Ravelry since like I want to say 2010, maybe. I can't remember when they started. It wasn't. They were still a newer, but they weren't brand new.
all right.
But I was always on there as my personal name until I, started my
Mm-hmm.
channel. It'll be
And
2 years
I
this
tell
March.
people, if you're going to have a Ravelry page and you're going to have an Etsy store and you're going to have a YouTube, it needs to be the same name.
Right. Well, I changed it to my branding name now, but yeah. And I wasn't really good at putting everything on there then, but now it's like everything is, at least I'm trying to get everything up there. All my tester stuff goes up there because that's where everybody wants it to go. But sometimes I forget to put my own personal stuff up there.
Like I have 363 projects
Wow.
with photos. So it's a
Well,
lot.
I won't put a project up unless I have a photo. I get so angry, like when I go to look at projects, because I've gotten so good now. When there's something I want to make, but I'm not sure, or you're not sure by the pictures that the designer puts up exactly how it looks like, I always go look at projects. And so I can see how it looks in other yarn. One thing I like to challenge myself with is making something in a different yarn
Right.
than what they make it with.
And that's a great way to kind of get an idea how a designer writes a pattern. Like if they actually have it
Mhm.
properly tech edited. So if you're looking at a pattern and like you
Well,
see
I'm
it's
a
been
tech
made in,
editor too,
yeah.
so
But if you see a pattern that's been made and like no one else's pattern looks like the designer's, then there could be a slight issue with the pattern
right,
writing and
right,
breakdown and how to
exactly.
do it. So,
Exactly. So I look at the patterns, but when you have somebody where there's like 4 or 5 people who don't put their pictures up, it's like, come on,
yeah.
why even bother putting it up here as you've done it and you finished it if you're not going to put a picture up?
I think a lot of it's because unless you pay that, it used to be only $5. I don't know if it's $5 anymore or if it's $10. But if you pay that once, it's only once a year. Then you can put it straight from your phone to like your thing. But sometimes you have to put it on a computer first or add it to a project page to share it
Okay,
into a
I guess.
thread. I think that's probably why. Good night, Amby.
Not Amby.
That's the only thing I can
That's
think is
early
why
for
people.
Amby. Okay. I was going to see if she wanted to come in the room if I opened it later. Um. Anyway, I was going to say something and I can't. Oh, I was going to say, I guess I can see that now. I wasn't thinking about that because I use my laptop
Yeah.
to post all of that stuff. I am, as most people would say, I guess still old fashioned when it comes to
Oh, I
all the
prefer my
technical stuff.
computer. Like
I prefer
my
having a laptop.
I
I will
have a
do stuff on my phone, but
I have my laptop that I love, but I treated myself to a Mac. What is this thing? A Mac computer, but like there's really no tower, so it's all like in the screen. But my camera is actually my phone right now that's feeding into my computer. But like I love this thing as far as video editing and stuff, like just the stuff that comes with it for free.
mhm.
It's great. But
I
I'm an
heard that
Apple
they're
girl.
I heard that the Macs are hard to understand if you've never used one before.
I've had an iPhone for several years. I have an Apple Watch, just so I can get calls and stuff from my phone,
Mhm.
even if I don't have my. Stop
Yeah,
telling me
I
the
have
time.
my daughter got me the Fitbit that has the Apple Watch on it.
Because mine has my a cell phone. It's on signal, so that way if I'm in the yard and like the boys try to call me or Mama tries to call me, I don't have to dig out my. Especially it was great during COVID because I don't have to touch my phone and touch my face, and
Mhm.
it was just germophobia. But I love the Apple products. I really want to get one day an Apple notebook, but that's not gonna be anytime soon.
Yeah, I have an iPhone too. So if you use an iPhone in that, then it's not as hard to.
No, they talk to each other.
Okay.
Like if I want to put a picture on my computer, I literally just have to pull up the picture and hit AirDrop, and it just pops up on the computer.
Well, I love doing that with with my TV and stuff now that
Like
I'm
it's
streaming.
amazing.
I can do that with
Video.
my laptop that I have. I can AirDrop it and it'll come up on my TV, and I'm like, wow.
The only thing about it is if it's like a longer video shot in 4K, you can't really do more than 4 minutes at a time, where it takes so slow and it times out. So I just kind of, which I usually take a couple of cuts of each video anyways, and then edit them together because I say a lot, and I try not to say a lot.
Yeah, my husband says, you got to stop saying that. I'm like, yeah, I know that everybody works on that. I think
So
we all do it. Almost
we
all of
will
us.
do it. So there's a lot of editing and like J cuts that my thing. I'm like bye bye
See, and I don't edit mine, so mine just stays in there. So
and then I'll go off on tangents or I'll like talk to the cat and I'm like, oh yeah.
I'm still here. Yeah, I have my squirrel moments, as I call them, but I'm still usually talking to everybody on the camera. It's just I go off and talk about something else. Then I come back and then I go off and then I come back. If you see that I have an hour, and I mean, when I first started out, I think all of my videos were at least 45 minutes to an hour. And I was like, okay, you got to cut it down. You got to cut it down. You
All
got to
mine
get
tend to be
down.
that long anyways. I have a couple
But
of
I have
smaller ones.
people who love watching them. Like I know one person, she watched every morning. She gets up and she's like, oh, good, there's a video from AJ. And she sits down and drinks her coffee and watches.
Mm-hmm.
And I was gobsmacked, I guess is a good word for it. I had a shout out yesterday from somebody and she's like, oh, her voice is so calming. And every time I just need to relax and be calmed, I can go watch her. I was like, wow. I was like, thank you. That's a great compliment. So,
Yeah, like I was surprised that my video that I put up about the books that's an hour long has
oh, I
got as much
watched it.
views as it has. I even put timestamps because I'm like, people are not going to want to watch that all the way, so they can just kind of get to whatever they want to.
No,
Like, I
I
felt
watched it because
bad.
I wanted to see what books that I needed to go
So,
get.
I'm like, I'm reviewing. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like so long. People are going to hate this video.
You got so far and you're like, oh my goodness, I still have, and I can't remember how many books it was
I
to
know. I
go.
was like,
And I'm like talking to the screen. I'm like, do not go faster. I want to see what you're doing.
and I'm like, here we go. That's all, folks. And that wasn't even all of them. Like, I have like so
Especially
many
because
books.
you showed the knitting and then you showed crochet. I'm like, I want to see the crochet all the way through, like you
Yeah,
did
I
with
need
the
to
knitting.
have. I'll just have a live one day, and we'll talk about books, and I'll just sit over there because there's a whole bookcase that is 79 inches tall. That is nothing but books and magazines, and then there's a calyx over there that has nothing but crochet books. And I have a lot of
See, and you get
80
the magazine I've always wanted to get, but I can't
Simply
afford the
well,
physical
I did
edition.
Simply Crochet for many years. Like when they first came out, I literally was one of their first people to sign up, and I had the magazine. But being in the US, it would just go missing. Or it would come ripped because they would just put in that little paper, and it always had the little free gift, and that would get caught, I guess, in the machines.
Uh-huh.
So it's kind of not a cheap magazine, and like I kind of felt like if I'm paying for this, I kind of want to get my free product, like
Right.
not to be ugly. And I would call them, and they would kind of try to send it out, but a lot of times they didn't have anything else to send out, and they're like, we're sorry, we don't have anything else. I'm like, well, I'm paying you for this. I'm not getting that. Like, it's kind of sad. And it wasn't really their fault. It's the postal system.
Right. But still, they should be able to get their money back from the postal
Right.
system.
And they should be able to put it like in some other kind of packaging for overseas purchasers. And because there's no way for me to buy it locally. Our books a
Right.
million turned into a Second and Charles many, many years ago. So I had to quit getting it. So then I got to where whenever I would just go into town, I would just buy it. And then I would look and I would scour eBay for people who were selling their copies like a little fiend. I'm like, I need this. And if you look on my Ravelry page, way down at the bottom, there's actually a post still that says, I'm still looking for these Simply Crochet magazines. Contact me with details. So,
Cool.
I
I didn't even think of looking on eBay. See, I don't care about getting the free things, although I always thought that was kind of cool that they did that. I'm a pusheen lover. I want to get them because I want to get all the pusheen
there's so much cool stuff.
patterns that they put
Like
in those.
their
And I know it's the only
magazine.
place you can get them is in Simply Crochet.
Right. But their magazines are just far superior than US crochet
Oh, I know.
magazines. And I hate saying that, people, but it's true.
I saw a flip through that my friend did because she bought one at the craft store, and I was like, oh my goodness, I want to make that. I wanted to make like everything in it. Now I get Crochet and Crochet World, and I'll find like 5 or
But you
4
can
or
do
5
the digital
things.
version, and often you can just buy a certain magazine of the digital version, and you can
Yeah,
actually see what's in all of them on Ravelry. You know that, right? Do
I
you know
didn't
that?
know that.
Okay, so you can pull up the magazine. For the most part, they're pretty good about putting them up. Usually, they're about 4 or
Well,
5 magazines behind.
okay. See, I'll see what I want, but see, I can't even afford I can't afford a lot. I can only afford literally every month. And I don't like to talk about this all, but literally with being disabled and not being able to drive, and
Right.
my money's going into my stitch markers right now because I'm hoping to be able, people will start buying those, especially once I get them on a web page or on a blog and not stuck in Facebook where it's at right now. We have a bathroom that needs to be fixed, and I need to help. And the only way I can help is by crocheting and doing stuff like that. So that's why when Robin told me she'll my stitch markers, I was like, okay, I'll try and sell them. And I've been having fun, doing it and stuff. I'm just not selling enough.
All right. So
So
Facebook, you really have to promote yourself. If you're going to do a blog,
right, yeah, I've done direct sales before, so I know you've got to promote yourself a lot. So
Blogger would be good. I mean, I love Blogger. It's free. And you can even, I think, do a WordPress blog, but I don't know how much limit you are to
yeah, I
size
was
of
thinking of
photos.
doing GoDaddy's free one because I pay for my domain name every year
Oh, yeah,
until I
because you
can
had a domain
finally
name. Yeah, that's
afford.
right.
Yeah, until I can afford to put my domain name on it because you have to pay to put your domain name on it. So I was thinking of trying theirs free and see if I like the free one. If not, I was going to try Wix, but I wasn't sure. I've heard bad
I,
things about them.
I went with Hostinger, and like around Black Friday, that's when you get the good deal. I think I paid like, it wound up being less than $2 a month for a year. for my hosting for my website, and then I found tutorials, and I actually literally built my entire website by
Yeah, I know
myself.
we were talking about that when you were doing it.
And I'm
Because
pretty
I was like,
impressed
help me,
by it.
please.
Like I'm like really shocked that I was able. It took literally a month and a half to 2 months to do,
Mhm.
because like I have it so when you pull it up, there's like this little video image and it disappears and things move, and I created all my own images. Like I actually went through and did all the different fonts. Like I'm still working, and when I converted all my old blogs from Blogger over, I'm starting to go through and like bring them up to their quality, I guess you can say, and remove all those dead links from
Mhm.
YouTube that take you nowhere now because that channel was deleted. But it was, I had some moments where I had to like step outside from the computer because I was going to punch it. But I was
Yeah.
very proud of myself that I was able to sit there and watch all these videos and put knowledge and create something, because I had never done that before. And it was actually really
Yeah.
hard.
Well, see, and my husband paid for me to take the class for tech editing, and I was told tech editors are needed so bad. You'll be able to get work as soon as you're done. The thing is everybody that I follow and that I've done some free work to get my blurbs, and stuff, and I've worked with some really great, designers that I tech edited their stuff, but they have their own tech editors. So, they're fine to give you one or two and, to give you,
All right.
your blurb that you need, but they don't want to work with you except for one. Her tech editor got sick. So she contacted me. And I think that's my only paying job that I've had so far, is that I was told go on the blogs, because I've gone in the groups on Facebook. They're like, go in the groups, introduce yourself, and stuff. Unfortunately, all the groups that I'm in, most people are looking for a knitting tech editor, and since I don't knit, I'm like, I'm kind of stuck, to crochet right now.
And there's a lot of Facebook groups in the crochet world that have not very good admin staff. So I was a mod of a huge crochet group. I'm not going to name it. My Yarning4asmile name is still part of that group. I think it still may be a mod. I don't know. But my actual person had to cut ties because I'm like, no, not happening. Because the admin of that group um, talked to me about possibly selling the group to make money, which you can't really do legally because it's not really your group. It's owned by Facebook. But
Right.
it was just kind of weird to me, and I just couldn't be part of that, so I had to leave. But there's a
I
lot of
just
groups that they're like no spamming, and they're literally ran by spammers. Just so
right.
funny. And all the admin do is put all these spamming posts in there. So I'm just kind of like, what's happening? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
I've seen
hardly
that.
on Facebook anymore. I just can't handle it.
I used to be a part of some of the really big crochet groups that before everybody came over to YouTube, they were in the big groups on YouTube, on Facebook, and then I just had to leave. I couldn't handle them anymore,
I just can't do it.
because you get, people who couldn't even make up their own mind on anything anymore. It was like everybody had to go and ask, what colors should I do this in? Which way should I do this? Which whatever. And I'm just sitting here going, can't you, you're going to get 10, 20, 30 different answers.
Mm-hmm.
You're
Yeah,
just going to end up having to figure it out for yourself anyway. I mean, I understood the ones where, okay, I picked out these colors. I need one more to go with it. I can't make up my mind between, this or that. But asking how to do everything from the beginning to the end of a pattern, I'm like, you know, they're there for when you need help. I get that. But to ask for every single little thing and then get upset when somebody tells you something that you don't want to hear.
yeah,
It's like you're going to be told so many different things. You're going to have somebody who tells you something that you don't want to hear. You know, that's how life is, unfortunately. I was scared to death on YouTube when I came out and actually told all about my health status and stuff. But I've been lucky and I haven't had anybody, knock on wood, yet, be mean or anything.
you shouldn't.
Well, I've experienced a lot of it in real life. So I expected it here too. I expect it everywhere I go. So Unfortunately, there's a lot of people who still are not very well educated in things.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Anyway, we have been on here for a while and we have lost everybody, I think.
This is past my bedtime, so I'm just kind of like winging it at this point.
I'm
I'm sure
sorry,
my
I didn't mean to keep you past your bedtime.
I'm in our bedroom, so I'm sure my husband's like waiting to see when the door's going to move so you can come. He's probably hovering out the door right now. Like, but what's
Are they
crazy
almost
is
done? Can I hear? Are they saying
what's
goodnight?
what's crazy is I'm still waiting on DHL to come. So I won Hobie Bingo, and
Yes.
they
Oh, I was going to bring that up that you won. I'm so excited for you.
So yes, people actually win Hobie Bingo. I won Hobie Bingo Monday. I won 6 games of Amigo and 2 of the Sultan Deluxe Sparkle Cakes, which
Did you
is
get the Amigo, the chunky that that's the one I was talking about
the
that I
like
really
watery color
wanted.
that discontinued. Yeah,
Yes.
I have a
And
fun
when I
project
looked
in
that
mind.
day, they had like 8 colors. Now they're down to 5.
And I got 2 of there's 3 colors, and I got 2 of each of them. But what's crazy is like they mail it out. So like I ordered from Hobie, and I had a package come today. I ordered that last week before last. It only takes like a week to get stuff here, even in Alabama. But my Hobie Bingo that I won on Monday, it's almost like they overnight it because DHL is bringing it today, and the day's only Wednesday, and it's coming from
Wow.
Denmark. But DHL comes like at 10:30 at night here, so like I'm just waiting for the DHL guy to come bring me my Hobie.
Well, I'm glad I can keep you company until you get your Hobie. And I am so jealous now because you got that was the yarn of the day that I was looking at, and my eyes just went. Phew. Of course, I
I didn't
showed the
even know
yellow
I
one.
won. So I'm like tall, and I'm always at Walmart at the same time every Monday. And there's these little old ladies that know that they can come find me and I'll get stuff for them. So the little old lady was like, "Come here," and I'm like helping her get this box of like coffee thing down off the top thing. And then I hear them say Yarning Kim D, and I'm like, "That's me, I won." And she's like jumps back. And I'm like, "No." And I have on my earbud right now, but I had my hair down, and I think she thought I was crazy because she's just kind of like, "Are you okay?" And I like had to explain, no, there's people talking in my ear and I won something. I don't know what I won. So I got on their Facebook page and I'm like, "Hey, if anybody's, watching, could you please tell me what I won? Because I have no idea." So, and like the lady who was hosting it is actually in their Hobie group. And she was like, "Oh yeah, you won this and this and this. And I'll send you an email in a little bit." I'm like, "Okay." And sure enough.
It was the first time that she ever hosted it. She was from Germany.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She's super nice.
She did pretty good being on her own.
It was
My
pretty
favorite
funny.
time so far, I think, was the first time that I ever did it, which was only a couple months ago. And it was a day that Matt was there and everybody was sick. So he was running it all on his own. And I was like, you guys need to let him do this on his own. You need to let him host.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, he did amazing hosting. And then I often wonder, is he truly picking out the colors of everything, or are they just telling everybody because they know that the women love to hear that he picks out the colors?
They're probably picking out colors that are overstocks
Well, yeah.
or
Well, the discontinued. I'm like, why would you put that there? I want it so bad, and you're discontinuing it.
discontinued. Which, I mean, that's a really good way to clean out because when you say, "Hey, this is the colors that we picked out for you guys today," people are gonna be like, "Oh, I want to buy that," and that cleans out your stock.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I have a bag. I have a bag of Hobie right here that I have to order or that I have to open.
I want to
That's the
order
bag
from
of
them
money.
so bad, but that was the other thing I did. I did it last year. My husband has been really. I didn't really have a stash when he was telling me I had too much yarn, but we live in a very small house. And then
I
I
have a bag.
started getting online more and seeing the yarn more. And all I was doing at that point in time was baby blankets. And I was getting into amigurumi, into everything else because I had to learn everything else, of course, once I finally had time and not working anymore. I was a massage therapist and I miss doing that so much. I'm like, I got to do something else that I like. So I started getting yarn. And then I was like, okay, last year I said, I will only work for my stash unless somebody orders something from me and I need something else. or if I'm working on something, I don't have enough, or I really need something else because it's a gift for our daughter, or whatever. And he's like, okay. So then I met my friends from opening my chat room, and they are all, so great. They're all like, no, we need to send you some yarn. And because the one, she's just really, once she gets a challenge, my husband was like, no, don't send her any. She's like, oh, just wait. And she has sent me literally like 3 huge boxes of yarn. So she's like, you're not buying yarn, we're sending it to you.
Yeah,
So,
my yarn, I have a big stash and I have a lot of really nice yarn. But I'm also like a stickler for finding good deals. And we had a local yarn store that closed down, and she had a lot of her like Malintosh and Malabrigo like super
uh-huh.
cheap, and I kind of took advantage of that.
Oh, well,
And
I would
then
have too.
and then just buying destashes. So I have friends who's like will put up yarn for sale because they're trying to raise money for a surgery, and it's like maybe an indie dyer that I love, and they'll put it for like half price, and so I'll buy it to support them, and I'm getting yarn that I love.
Right.
That's kind of how, but that's also since 2013 that I've been buying that. So,
Yeah.
and I
I
go
just,
through a lot of yardage a year. Like I was doing almost 10,000 yards a year in knitting and crochet. It's kind of slowed down a little bit since we started homeschooling, but it's starting to pick back up. So,
yeah. There are so many different ones I want to try. But I also, that's the one thing. Like, I know you do a lot of the more higher end. Yeah. Kathy says I only buy on sale. And I only usually buy on sale too, unless I absolutely positively have to have it. And then it's usually something that I'm getting paid for. So I'm not buying it. They are.
all right.
But I started, getting the knit crate, and that was a great deal to get some high end yarn and learn, what it's like and to use it. And then, of course, you end up loving it. And then I started watching Chemknits, and I learned how to dye my own. And then I would buy from her store, and she, of course, doesn't charge as much as most other high end
Mhm.
dyers, do, because hers are all, you know, I'm just trying to see if this works, and we see what we get out of
Right.
it, and then she puts it in the store. Well, then I met Mace of Skeins, and I just fell in love with all of her work. And I'm just like, I can't afford it. But every once in a while, like the one Christmas, she put up one, she called them Misfit Toys, or she called them Misfit Skeins, Hanks, actually. And so I got one because it was the colorway I really, really wanted. And she put it down cheap enough that I could afford it. But we don't have any local yarn stores here at all. All of them have closed because when Michaels came in, we had like maybe 4 or 5, and they all ended up closing within,
Mm-hmm.
I want to
And
say,
that's really
2 to
honestly
3 years.
why I
And then,
buy
yeah, then
because
we got 2 Joann's and then Hobby Lobby. So yeah, we don't have any now.
big box stores definitely is putting out local yarn stores out of business, and we're small business owners, so I
Right.
kind of I have a pull to the other small businesses. Like I
So
kind of
do
feel like
I just can't afford it.
so like I just don't I don't buy. I don't go out. Like I literally go out once a week. I'll either take a lunch, I'll take an apple instead of eating lunch so I can buy yarn.
Um,
Confessions.
the sad thing though that's happening is the big box stores are pushing out the smaller,
Mm-hmm.
home businesses, but now they're going under.
Yeah, everything's
Like
going under.
Joann's is closing. I can't remember how many stores my husband said he read a couple weeks ago. Now we have 2. So I'm like, okay, you can take one.
Yeah, that's
Don't take
crazy. You
both.
have to.
Well, I live in South Bend, and then Mishawaka, which has our big mall, is right next to us. So it's like 2 decent sized cities. So one's South Bend and one's Mishawaka. But we all consider that we have 2 no matter where we live in Mishawaka or South Bend. Um, and then we have the one Michaels, but there's another Michaels about an hour away. And I know people who don't even have a Michaels, except for an hour or 2 hours away.
Kathy, we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's been 7 local yarn stores closed in Alabama within a 2-hour range of each other in the past 5 years. 7.
Wow.
that have been going forever.
Well, see, and they just put a major interstate in here in Indiana. It used to be, for where I live, if you look at the map of Indiana, and if you know the shape of Indiana at all, how it's got the little hook at the bottom, and then it goes up, and then there's Lake Michigan, and it's got the little dip. I live a little bit over to the right of the dip for Lake Michigan,
Mm.
almost exactly in the middle of the state, but right at the top on the state line. And there was always a freeway that would go from Indianapolis over to Fort Wayne, which is an hour to the east of us, and one that would go up to Chicago, which is an hour and a half to 2 hours to the west of us. But for us to get to Chicago or to Indianapolis in the heart of Indiana, it would literally take us 3 to 4 hours, and it would take them like an hour to two because they had the freeway. So they finally decided to put in this, it's not really a freeway, but it goes faster system and it goes straight through. And
They're
so,
like the express lane.
yeah, but you don't,
You
there,
you
it's
have to
going above
pay.
the cities and you don't have to, well, we don't have to pay. So,
Mm.
but it's not as fast. It's still like a speed limit in most places of 55 or 60, where the other ones are 70 to 75. Anyway, and they're bigger. And this is still only 2 lanes on each side. Well, anyway, they're bypassing the cities because they're making it so you can go straight through and not having stoplights. Like the city of Kokomo, to go up 31, which is the road I'm talking about. I used to go to school in Indianapolis. I went to Butler, if you've heard of Butler Bulldogs.
Mhm.
I went to there for a couple of years. And there was literally like 11 stoplights from the beginning of the city to the end on 31, and it was like every 2 blocks you had to stop and go for 11 stoplights, and it was just crazy. Well, now this system goes completely around it, and you hardly have any stops in between. Now there was certain places down in Indy where you had them. Well, now they're doing the work where it's going around them too. So all these places you're used to stopping at, you're not going by anymore. And there used to be a really good little yarn store a couple blocks from where my grandma lived, and she had lived just outside of South Bend. But when the bypass went up, it completely bypassed it. So they shut down.
Mm-hmm.
And the only ones that had been left in the area were along State Road 31 because that's how everybody came in and out, from Indy on up. And that's how they were supported by the people who would, from out of state who were coming to South Bend, because the area of South Bend and around here between South Bend and Mishawaka and Granger, all the ones around here, there's like 11 colleges within our area. And Notre Dame, of course, is the biggest. Most of them are the little, local colleges, but you've got Notre Dame and St. Mary's, their sister school. And
Rudy Rudiger.
so there's a lot of people who come into our area. And that's what used to support them. But now that the streets, bypass all of that, they're all gone.
Mm.
And the ones that have actually been in South Bend have never made it, because now people are so used to going to the big box store. They look at that and they're like, why would I want to buy that? I had a friend who I met just a couple months ago who literally had never had high end wool. And I can't remember if I helped her get her first one. I don't think I sent it to her. I may have sent her a knit picks. I can't remember. Not a knit
I
picks,
love
but
Nick Picks.
and now she's like scouring Etsy and stuff, to get higher end stuff.
You can
So
actually find really good deals on Ravelry just through the D stash. Like a lot of my homespun house, which is my favorite dyer, but she's out of Berlin. I can't afford to pay that shipping, but people will buy it and then they want to destash it, and then it's like they sell it for like right up under retail with US shipping. So it's like I get it cheaper than if I can even buy it from her, and it gets here sooner, and I
well,
get
see,
to pick
I've
out.
never seen anybody actually sell theirs who have it.
So if you go into Ravelry stashes and you find what yarn you're looking for, you can sort it by ones that have it up for sale or who don't have it up for sale, and you can sort it and see the price how much they're asking for it, and you just message them and you do a PayPal transaction. And
Okay. I used to do Stash Along, which was part of Knit Crates. If you went on there and you can put it on there, and I used to trade my yarn, but I had
I love,
never really bought it because it was usually trading it for something that was the same price.
yeah, I love buying destashes and my favorite designers, because that's also a good way to get colors that they don't dye anymore, that
Right,
maybe you really like, and you also can kind of see what you're getting, and it's not that much of a, it's hand dyed yarn. You can see it in the screen, but that may not be what you get. And if you have
right,
your heart set on one of them, it could be like big heartbreak.
right.
So
Well,
that's
I
why I
just
like
had
buying.
that happen with the Premier yarn. It doesn't even have to be a high end yarn.
Yeah, yeah,
I went
color
to
wise.
Kathy and I are going to make a sweater. We're going to make the same one. We found it. We love it. We fell in love with it. And we're like, we're both going to make it. One of the things I scheduled for me for this year is I'm having a me day. And it's going to be Saturdays. I'm calling it Selfish Saturday. And it's my day to work on a crochet project for myself. Because until last year, I had never really made anything for myself. It was always for everybody else.
All right.
And so her and I are going to both be working on this sweater together. Well, it's made with I always forget if 5 is chunky and
6 is
it's made,
super bulky,
yeah, that's
and
right. So it's
7
made with
is.
chunky, and I don't have a lot of chunky yarns. Most of mine is 4 weight and lower. So I needed to get some. Well, I had been gifted some scarfie that was in a color I couldn't find. It was discontinued, and last year they had brought it in, and I promised myself I would get it within the year sometime. I'd save my money, and I saved my money. I went to get it, and Lion Brand had gotten rid of it. They had
Mm-hmm.
discontinued it already. And Hirschner's didn't have it. Nobody had it. When my friend had some, she had used what she wanted. She sent me the rest. And I was like, that was so sweet of you. Well, I needed 2 more to make this with.
I'm coming.
And it turns out that Hirschner's actually has it now. So I was able to go and buy 2 more skeins. But what I was going to do before that, and that was to appease my husband. He's like, I thought you were using your stash. Is I was going to get Premier's Basics because they had it on sale for $2.99. Hirschner's did, and so did Premier. And I fell in love with this color. It was called linen, and it looked like a candlelight, and it was gorgeous. This picture. Well, then when I went on Premier, it looked like off-white. And I was like, wait a minute, which one is it? And I contacted Premier. They're like, oh, it's off-white. It's not the color on Hirschner's. We have to send them the right color.
Yeah, that's.
I was like, that I fell in love with that color. I'm like, how could it not be that color? I'm like, did it used to be that color and now you changed it? They're like, no, it's just the wrong color.
I'm
But
sorry.
somebody put a project on Ravelry and it looked like that color, and they even said it was linen. And I'm like, so tell me what color that is, because it wasn't linen.
I've got to go because my husband and my
Yeah.
family are in there. They're like, come on. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
I,
past
I
their
heard him.
bedtime.
That's fine. And I didn't mean to take it.
Oh no, it's okay.
Wow. I said an hour and we're on here almost 2 hours. So I just enjoyed it. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to
That's
take that
okay.
long.
That's been fun.
Thank you so much for joining me. Maybe sometime in the couple months we
Thank
can
you
do
for
this
having me.
again. I will definitely be commenting and watching your stuff. So
Same. Thank you.
thank you.
Bye.
Night. Night, everybody.